Hello and welcome to Jordan on Games. I'm Jordan and the game that we're talking about today is Eternal Strands. But before we get into it, let's check out some footage. Roll the tape, Jeremy. Yes, that was some Eternal Strands gameplay there. Eternal Strands released on January the 28th. It's available on Xbox, PS5 and on Windows. I'm currently playing it on Xbox Series X because it is also available on Game Pass. So this is one of those games where if you want to check it out and you have Game Pass, after you've listened to me talk about it, then you can just go and download it right now as part of your Game Pass membership. I've not completed Eternal Strands, so this is very much just a first impressions. I've played about 6 or 7 hours at the moment, and you know what? I'm really enjoying it so far. It's not a perfect game by any stretch of the imagination. It's by a relatively new studio, Yellow Brick Games, that have been formed from some former BioWare, some former Ubisoft folks, and it's got a really interesting hook, and the hook that I would describe it as, it's like Monster Hunter meets Breath of the Wild. And if that sounds like a game that you could be interested in, then do go check it out. I say that because it has the biomes similar to a Monster Hunter. It is not open world like Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. There's several discrete zones which are well detailed, they're well animated, there is enough in there to keep you exploring. It's not littered with collectibles. There are some lore bits, there is some loot to find, so there's enough to keep you interested and engaged for a little bit. But the big hook in each of these zones are these gigantic enemies that you can fight. Sometimes they're these big robot-looking guys called Ark, sometimes they're dragons, sometimes they're these big lizard-like creatures, and much like you do in Monster Hunter, or even games like Dragon's Dogma, or games like Shadow of the Colossus, you can climb these guys, you can maneuver yourself around them, there are different parts that you can hit, there's armor to destroy that reveals weak points, and if you beat these guys, if you just kill them, reduce all their health, then you get lots of crafting materials. That's an element I'm going to talk about in just a little bit. And if you beat them in a very specific way, which you can find out from reviewing the Codex, yes, this is another game with a Codex if you're really into all that lore-rich thing in games. And if you go into the Codex and find the specific way to beat these monsters that requires you to do maybe destroy a certain part of armor, maybe stun them by walking into a tree or something like that, then you can harvest their energy, which is how you upgrade your magic. And that's the other really interesting element to this game, which is where the Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom comparison comes in, as it's got this really smart physics-based magic system, whether that's telekinesis, everything in the world you can destroy, you can pull off the ground, you can throw at enemies, including other enemies, and the world reacts very believably to all that. Whether it's trapping your enemy inside like a force bubble, and using your fire spell to breathe fire that gets trapped inside this force bubble, and create this like swirling fiery whirlpool of death, little bits and pieces like that. It's a really interesting way to experiment with the with the physics and with the magic. You can also use some of these spells to like the force the force bubble one, you can use it to throw yourself in the air and jump up really high, for example. So there's some really interesting ways to play around with the system, and the world reacts really interestingly to that. And it's just a very well developed and satisfying system. And it's not a game that's chock full of systems, but the ones that it does very well and is accomplished with. So I think that's something that, if it sounds interesting to you, please do go and check it out. There is also a crafting system in the game. This is the primary way in which you get stronger, increase your attack, your defense, that kind of thing. You can find armor schematics in the wild, or you can upgrade your existing armor through the various crafting items that you find through exploring the world, whether that's defeating enemies, whether that's destroying bits of the environment, trees, rocks, that kind of thing. And you can upgrade these, you can reforge them with better quality crafting materials to increase the defense or the attack, that sort of thing. And that's another area where it's very similar to Monster Hunter in that way. So it's got these two competing elements, but there's a base as well with vendors that are part of your clan that you can upgrade to increase their abilities. And all of that stuff is actually very good. Where it kind of falls down a little bit, the story is slow going. I'm at about hour 7 or 8, and it's mostly just going around and still exploring the world. There doesn't appear to be any strong threat or villain coming yet. I think there is one, but I haven't encountered it at this part. So the story's taking some time to pick up. And the quests, there's a lot of fetch quests. It's sort of go to this place, find this piece of information, pick up this note, pick up this letter, and then it will guide you to the next objective or to the next biome. And that's not the best, but because it's wrapped up in this interesting crafting system, in these giant enemies, with this interesting magic system, I can kind of overlook those. And it's definitely the sort of thing that if this game gets a sequel, which I hope it does, I hope it does well, it's a good game, that they can refine that sort of thing. The characters, pretty likable, the voice acting, pretty engaging. A lot of it's just those kind of static character portraits talking back and forth to each other. There's not a lot of animated cutscenes. Although to start with a really cool kind of anime style hand-drawn cutscene. I haven't seen any more of those. Don't know if there are any more. If I do complete the game, I may update these thoughts. This is very much just thoughts, first impressions on spending less than 10 hours with the game. I think it's not a super long game as well. I don't think I'm going to be spending 50, 60, 70 hours playing it. So that's Eternal Strands. As I say, it is on Game Pass. Do go check it out if you are a subscriber to Game Pass. It is also available on PS5 and on Windows. And thank you for joining me on Jordan on Games. If you liked the video, if you've made it this far, please do hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, ding that notification bell, all the usual YouTube stuff. I'm trying to build a channel here, and it's going to take a while, but thank you to all of you who have watched so far, and I will see you on the next one. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.